All right. So I have mostly commerce students on this YouTube channel, but today I have the privilege of hosting Vinay Solanki. So Vinay has been my batchmate from IIM Ahmedabad. So we've done that PGPX, the 1 year full-time MBA for the period 2014-15. So welcome to the show, Vinay.
Thank you so much, Anurag.
Yeah,
Excited to be
and
here.
so he's from a complete tech background. So he's someone who started his acads in Bombay, went to the US, and then came back to India through the PGPX, was working in a corporates like Airtel and Lenevo, and is now an entrepreneur. So Vinay, before we plunge into PGPX and Internet of Things, please tell us about your formative years. Which city did you grow up, your family, school, college, the impact of your family members in terms of your value system, etc.
Okay. So I was born in Gwalior, but I was brought up in Mumbai, Bombay. It was called back then. So I did my schooling in Bombay from a convent school. After that, I went to pursue engineering in computer engineering, bachelor's program, which was also in Mumbai University. I come from a family of entrepreneurs, actually. So my father had been an entrepreneur for almost all his life. He used to work for Baba Atomic Research. He was a scientist there, but then he took a plunge and started his own business. So that's why I have learned certain traits of running business and dealing with people from him. After doing my computer engineering, I worked briefly as a lecturer in Bombay University, where I was teaching artificial intelligence, which was like few years back. And then worked for TCS for a very short while, and then decided to go to US, like many of us in Bombay were planning to do so. So I went to do my master's in computer science from State University of New York in Binghamton, post which I joined Goldman Sachs. So I was working out of their New York office, their headquarters. I worked there for approximately 8 years when I was working as a vice president in technology division in the algo trading side. And then suddenly, sometime in 2012-13, I realized that I'm the only son in the family, and my parents are getting old because I was the youngest out of all my 4 siblings, 3 siblings and myself. And I decided to move back to India to be closer to them when they need me more emotionally. So that was one of the main reasons. And then, as you said, I came back and joined PGPX at IIM Ahmedabad. And that's the time I chose my career to be in digital transformation technology. And I decided if I build my career in the next 10 to 20 years of my life, it will be in IoT and AI field. And that's how I pursued it deeply. And then went on to work with Airtel, leading their IoT business in India. Then moved to work with a startup in San Jose for a short while. And then Lenovo for approximately a year and a half, leading their IoT business for Asia Pacific before I decided to take a plunge and run my own company, which I'm running right now, called as Thingify Private Limited.
In terms of the specific questions, so you were well settled in the US, and the desire to be closer to family suddenly gripped you, and you came back to India. So was that an easy decision? Because the quality of life in the US is significantly better. The opportunities and the outcomes are significantly better. So then coming back to India, was that an easy decision?
No, not at all. It was very tough, and I had to ponder on it for almost 4 years, I would say. We started thinking in 2011 when, so 2010 I got married, and when we started settling there in US, we took a call that if we have to go back, we have to go early. If we stay here and have a kid and he or she starts growing up, it will be difficult even more. And then while interacting with my parents, and I realized that they won't be able to relocate with me there because of their network and other thing, and which I didn't want to disturb. So it was a very tough call, as you said. Quality of life, income, savings, and also the opportunities in terms of what kind of profile you can get were much better. But I also realized one thing, Anurag, while I was looking at what was happening in India with as an emerging economy, I also saw a lot of reverse brain drain happening, where a lot of my colleagues, not just from Goldman Sachs, but from my MS program and from my friends in the other companies, were pondering to go back. We're trying to settle back, either come back as an entrepreneur or maybe join their own corporate company and settle back here in the life. And actually, many of them are here now with me in various cities in India and doing very well.
So you're
So I
prepared to
don't.
take that salary cut?
I was prepared to take the salary cut. I was prepared to also take a profile cut if needed. There were two reasons for it, because I wanted to move out from a technology profile to a more business or techno-commercial profile, which is what I'm doing now, which is a good mix of both business fundamentals and technology expertise that I can apply to my domain. So I was ready to do that. Number one, I could have pursued an MS in US as well, but then I thought that if I do that, and my son was born by then, I thought that if I stay back here, I don't think the inertia and the force of pursuing an MBA and getting a very lucrative job will let me ever go back to India in the future. So that was one of the reasons. And then I found PGPX to be also equally valued and good program to come back to India.
So April 2014, you land up in IIM Ahmedabad. Tell us the 1 year, the most fondest of memories that you captured here.
Yeah, okay. So I was fortunate to work, study with you, one of the youngest in our batch. I was also fortunate to work with 83, 84 people actually. I think this was a very, very exciting journey. The 1 year was very tough, very time consuming on your personal time and your professional time as well. The batches and the terms, they go very fast paced. But I think what I realized that they give you a very all-round exposure to business fundamentals and running a business or being part of a business leadership profile. PGPX gives you the right exposure. Of course, there is a good stratification between the basic courses that all have to go through, and then electives, which are well designed for people who wants to go deeper into certain area. Particularly for me, I took certain electives in digital technology domain by certain professors, along with one of whom I also published a paper on IoT. Where I wanted to go deeper and understand how will digital transformation impact the businesses around it. And frankly speaking, now I see already the whole world is gripped with transforming themselves both digitally and professionally. All businesses, whether big or small.
Yeah, and no time better than the COVID shutdown to help us understand that had it not been for digital, we would have been left high and dry, locked in our homes. At least digital keeps us going. So the sheer fact that we are now commuting and communicating to each other, recording this call for the larger audience, makes us believe that yes, digital. So prior to, so you stumbled upon Internet of Things. So was it the serendipity, or was it like IIM Ahmedabad, that paper that you did? And most importantly, what is Internet of Things for the layman? See, because honestly speaking, we hear a lot of things like machine learning and Internet of Things and artificial intelligence, but it's just like high in the air, but you really do not know that how does it impact the ordinary man. So Internet of Things specifically, I would love to hear from you.
Sure. Okay. So to answer your first question, I stumbled upon IoT back in US as well, because a couple of my friends decided to launch a startup actually in smart home automation domain. Okay. Something like Google Nest, or something like a connected doorbell, or a smart thermostat or a Philips Hue bulb. So I got very keen about what is really going to happen in the world in the next 20 years or 2 decades, I would call it. And I was able to and fortunate to see that technologies like IoT and AI, along with other technologies like augmented reality or blockchain, will definitely pick up. The world cannot survive without adopting this and remain competitive, both businesses and governments. Even smart cities was actually picking up in US. And we would have heard about the same from our Prime Minister Modi when he launched the mission of 100 smart cities. So that's how IoT came into my head. Now, what is IoT for a layman? I'm very fortunate and also very excited to share this, because I keep writing blogs and I'm writing a book on the same topic on IoT. See, from a layman term, if you want to explain it to your grandma, you can actually correlate it analogously with a child. Okay, when a child starts growing up and an infant wants to communicate to the world around it, the only way that they can do is by crying, right? And as parents, what we do is by when we see them crying, we take some trial and error methods. We start feeding them. Probably then we check the temperature. Third step could be take them to a doctor if the crying doesn't stop, right? So the challenge we see is that the child is not able to tell you what's going wrong with the child, right? So think about the same way for a machine. Because a child who now starts growing up and capturing information through their eyes, ears, and nose, which acts like a sensor, right? And your skin as well, they start becoming intelligent over a period of time and communicating back to you. And when they grow, they are able to interact and share more information. The same applies to any machine or any device around us. If I put a sensor in a machine, where a machine can communicate back to me, Okay, and then tell me what is going wrong, or derive some value out of it. Think about a temperature sensor in your home that can tell you the temperature in a room, which can help you to adjust the air conditioned temperature to keep it ambient. Okay, very simple B2C example. Or think of a B2B use case where a connected car is launched by Maruti, for example, in India as well, and Volkswagen in Europe. They want the customer to use the experience of driving a car which can talk back to them by telling them that, hey, my engine is going to go bad, or my oil is running low, or the tire pressure is not good. You may want to take a look at it or go to a repair shop, right? So if you look at both of these examples, B2C or B2B, or even B2G, like what we are doing with smart cities in India, IoT as a layman is very simple. It's the power of enabling any device around you to talk back to you through sensors, which then is processed by like an AI engine to derive value for you. Okay, so that's for it. If
All
that makes
right.
sense to you, Anurag.
Yeah, yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And there are some. So you talked about taking care of your ailing parents. So I had read somewhere that IoT would be connected to, there would be sensors on your parents' body, and let's say you are in a
Yeah,
different city. The moment their blood pressure dips or sugar shoots or any anomaly happens, heart rate, EP, it sends you a signal that yes, there is some issue. Automatically, you get a signal, and then you can initiate some corrective action. So all of these things are like the transformative power of uh, IoT, and maybe like solar
yeah,
cells when they can turn
yeah.
off because the electricity grid no longer has that demand. So they can turn off,
Correct,
everything becomes automatic, right? So will this
correct,
impact
exactly.
employment as well? So there'll be less number of mechanical jobs?
See, I think that's a good question, and I think the whole industry is thinking about how many job losses will result in because of automation around you, right? It's not just IoT. The automation of various industries happen because of amalgamation of multiple technologies together, like robotics and humanoids or other things, which can do the work that a human should typically do. I think over a shorter period of time, there will be some impact for sure, because certain processes might become more automated. You must have heard of a technology called as RPA, robotic process automation, which basically automates routine mundane tasks, right? Things which are repetitive in nature. And that has already resulted in certain jobs being impacted. But over a longer period of time, two key things. One is if the upskilling and reskilling of the same labor workforce can be done in the right way to employ them into the newer areas, I think that will help drastically in the longer term. And second, what I feel is that because of more efficiency and enhancements in the operations of factories and other businesses, they will generate more revenue, save more cost, and maybe employ more people in other roles and businesses. I think the bottom line can increase because of more efficient way of working or adopting a solution, like as I explained with the connected car, or you mentioned solar powered panels, which are connected to the network. Ultimately, there will be a win-win for everyone.
So I would rather imagine that there's a lot of opportunity in startups which want to even look at skilling people with the right
Yeah,
skill set, so that they don't get outdated and they are up and running with artificial intelligence, machine learning, internet of things. And can that
yeah.
happen even to a commerce background kind of a person? Do you always need a techie here in RPA, in neural networks, or you also need people as business analysts who can think from the commercial side here?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So first of all, yes, there will be a role to be played by various institutes around us, including both public and private, to reskill, upskill, and provide those kind of a platform for people to learn and grow. I run a community called as IoT-NCR, which is world's third largest community with 8,000 plus member now. And I've seen in my workshops, when we do workshops on AI, IoT, blockchain, augmented reality, people come with background of non-tech as well. People from CA background, people from pure commerce or other vocational fields like design thinkers, civil engineers who are not a programmer, but they still have an application of IoT in what they design, the infrastructure that they might be working on. So think of any area, typically for commerce background, let's say, taking an example of you. Now, if you want to understand how can IoT impact me or my businesses? So I will give a simple case study for a financial lender who wants to lend to a manufacturing unit. Okay, today they only have certain set of parameters to calculate their credit risk, right? Like their history, their financial statement, their social footprint, and their other business documents. But what I have also seen that now these people who are purely commerce finance background people, They want to understand IoT and see if I can deploy certain asset monitoring solution inside my lending company or my customer, and that can give me more real-time data about their productivity. I can do better risk calculation for them. I can do much real-time estimation whether they will be able to repay or make the EMI payment for the next month, because that will give me then month-to-month inventory, month-to-month movement of days of inventory and other things. And that can be possible by such digital solutions. So I think there is a good convergence, Anurag, happening in the world where technologies are impacting almost every vertical. And it is becoming more and more a need where people should know about the applications, even if you are not able to program it.
Fantastic. I mean, so because today a lender would have only access to a stock statement or a profit and loss account, which is furnished at the end of the period. But on a real-time basis, if IoT can help me track my borrower, oh, it is fantastic.
Yeah, and it's already happening in Australia. I've interacted with few customers in the past. Lenders, the big banks there, they are working on a pilot with certain customers to do this and enable this. Yeah.
Fantastic. Tell us about your startup, Vinay. So what exactly are you into now? That since in January you decided to quit lucrative jobs. So first you were in Airtel, then in Lenevo, and then taking the entrepreneurial plunge maybe was the second big transition in your career. One, returning to India to be closer to family, and now the second transition in terms of the plunge into entrepreneurship. So was that an easy task? Did you have a clear proof of concept? Your idea had a clear market value proposition. How did you do that hypothesis testing? And how's the initial 3 months? Maybe the corona just got in between your dreams to scale up.
Yeah. So good question. So first of all, you would have realized I'm a risk taker. I have taken big risk in the past as well, and I love to take risks. And being an entrepreneur, one thing you have to know that whether you can really manage those risks well. And unless you can't do that, you should not take that plunge. My company is called as Thingify Private Limited. It's based out of Gurgaon. I have a co-founder from ISB Hyderabad. He's a data scientist by profession and an alum of ISB. So he was running this company for almost a year now. It's not something started in January. We both actually created a patent together around 2 years back. The patent is pending for publication in India, and also we have filed in US and Australia as we speak. So we basically created a product for retail industry, and not just like the retail store industry, but any retail outlet. It can be a shopping mall, it can be a building, a commercial setup for implementing energy management solutions and use cases around energy aspects. So think about this. Many of the retailers, not just India, but worldwide, or any of the retail presence, they have one big challenge is how do I optimize the cost of energy usage? Think of Big Bazaar. On a weekend, they have a good rush, but on a weekday afternoon, it might be almost 80% empty. But they still keep most of their lights on, their air conditioners running at the same temperature. They need to consume the same diesel in their generators and consume the same power. It's very hard for them to optimize the consumption of energy based on the requirement. It could be very simple, like a heat map that can be done with an IoT solution, and then some sensors that can capture the temperature reading and automatically instruct the controller to adjust the temperature. And we did that pilot, and it worked very well for 2 retail players in India. We are right now working with a government organization and on a first phase of deployment. It's a tender, so I cannot talk more about it, but it's one of the largest projects implemented by the government of India for food quality inspection across the country. So that's what we are right now working on.
And just if as a layman, I would think like in Australia, you have the option to switch between electricity service providers also, because the cost keeps on dynamically changing. In India, we don't have that luxury now, but maybe a decade later, your solution can also help Big Bazaar optimize whether to buy from Tata Power or CSC or BSES Reliance based on the dynamic pricing, and that can be really amazing in terms of what it can
That can be amazing. And actually, Anurag, there is also green building certification becoming more mandatory in India. So I don't know when that feature will become mandatory, like where you can switch the power suppliers. But what is happening definitely on the ground is that every large company want to be green certified. And government is going to monitor your energy consumption on a more granular level, if possible, because they want you to be more energy efficient rather than energy hungry. And my solution will definitely help them to both report the data better and also to tell them that the steps are taken to manage the energy at a much more efficient level.
Super. So Vinay, coming towards the end of this conversation that we had, so since
Yeah.
our show is about career journeys, career transformations, if you look back, and retrace your journey, what would be that one thing that you would want to do differently in your entire, maybe it's what, 15
Differently.
years? Yeah. Or,
Uh-huh.
what would have done, maybe come to India earlier, come to India later, plunge into entrepreneurship earlier. What could you have
Okay.
done earlier?
I think one thing I should have done earlier is plunge into entrepreneurship a little bit earlier than what I did. But of course, we all have our baggage of financial burden that comes along with going for such a program, and also other things that we have to take care of. So that I would definitely should have done a little earlier. But I think one more thing that I realized that could have gone better, or actually could have been done differently, is by choosing the right path towards entrepreneurship. I think I spent too much time in corporate career, but at the hindsight, what I feel that career also gave me a lot of good exposure in terms of managing the business holistically. So one thing I definitely did on purpose is took different roles in different companies. I did not just stay as a salesperson. In Lenevo, I was a business development and sales. But before that, I was market strategist. And in Airtel, I was building the platform for college connectivity management platform for IoT. So I try to ensure that I get an exposure holistically, along with my personal efforts like IoT-NCR and other things that I keep doing on.
Oh, that's a very good learning that one should not get stuck to a similar profile, but rather experiment with a lot of things. Then you really realize what is your mojo, and then you can just plunge into it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would just say a word of advice: build a T career, T-shaped career in today's world. I think what I mean by that is T should have depth in certain areas. So, like for example, me, I'm very deep in solution designing and creating a solution architecture for any use case in IoT. But also have a wider T, the bar of the T, where you understand the other aspects to a certain level as well. So, T-shaped career always helps to you to stay competitive and relevant in your career, because market is becoming very competitive. Trust me, especially India, with so many engineers coming out every day. You need to build yourself and position it as a differentiator. So not just focus on technology, but also on personal branding, like how Anurag does it very well. And I try to keep doing myself, writing blogs, articles, connecting with people, networking. It's going to be very useful for everyone, especially coming from engineering or a technology background as a junior professional. Should strive for that.
So that T-shaped career is something which I really is a very good and a novel way of expressing that you could have depth in some segment, but be
Yeah.
widespread. And this applies even to relationships. So have some people with whom you are deeply connected, and on the
Yeah.
periphery, but get connected to a larger world. Let's say you are now connected with 8,000 people as part of that IoT network. My final
Yeah.
question, since you've already covered the advice part, what do you do for fun and fitness? I remember in our campus, you used to do a lot of yoga, and you don't look like a 39-year-old 40-ish kind of a thing. So what keeps you going?
Okay. Yeah, I see today because of COVID, I cannot walk, but I normally used to go for morning and evening walk. But I'm doing meditation and Surya Namaskar in my balcony in current situation. But the two things that I'm passionate is cooking and dancing. So whenever I get time, I just play music and dance on it to relax my body. And I also started a home chef process now, where I cook certain things which I love, and I also deliver it to the audience in my society, because people cannot order from outside now. Zomato and Swiggy is not available. So I try to cook and help them as much as I can.
Fantastic. I mean, it's very interesting 25, 30 minutes of the conversation that we had, Vinay. And I'm sure
Thank
people,
you.
some at least to whom who are really excited by the larger world of Internet of Things and machine learning, would want to stay connected with you. So I'm leaving your LinkedIn profile uh, in the description and the pinned comment, so that people can probably reach out to you. And
Right.
audience, if you like this video, please share it with your near and dear ones, so that it reaches out to a lot of technology enthusiasts who want to change the world the way it functions. Because every one of us live a run-of-the-mill kind of a life, and here are these people who want to just who think 2 decades forward and try to change the world. So thank you so much, Vinay, for being on the show.
Thanks.
It's been a real
Thank you,
pleasure.
Anurag. Appreciate your time. Thanks.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.